Hello everybody, and welcome back to World of Tanks Bootcamp with Zethika. Now in this episode we're in this beautiful little tier 6 Russian light tank, the MT-25, which once upon a time was the T-50-2. And I just want to point this out. Look at this T-28 heavy tank concept. It looks positively British. I love it. Even though it is a bit ridiculous as well. Yeah, but once upon a time there was this funny little tank known as the T-50-2, I think it was. It's been a long while since it was removed, and it was removed because it was very, very good. Oh, I don't actually know why, but it was very, very good. And at some point this MT-25 was introduced, and it's basically the same tank. Well, I never played the T-50-2, but it certainly feels like it. Look how it scoots around like a beautiful little piece of fast Russian engineering without a fast grip on your tank at all. Now, what you find rather often is that when you play a tank, and you play a lot of it, or when you've played a lot of World of Tanks, you find yourself going into these kind of habits in your regards to your play with your tanks. In this case, I'm usually not over in this here area. Where I usually am is right over in the city. However, this is not always such a good idea, and especially not so in a light tank. In fact, the only reason I'm usually over there is because I never used to play light tanks. But recently, as I've said before, I've come to find that I really, really enjoy them. They are magnificent, I gotta say. Oh, I don't know if that was for me. Oh, and this T-37 just put a little shot into me. But what I was trying to say with that was that I need to get into some new habits regarding my play. So here I'm moving over to see if the city needs any help, and as you can tell, we've already probably won, since the momentum is going to carry us a lot further. Now I want to take a moment here and explain what it is I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to be making a break right down here. And why am I going to do that? I'm going to do that because I can see one tank here, I can see 3 tanks over here, meaning that 4 of the remaining 9 tanks have been spotted, right? I know that there's 3 artillery, meaning that 7 out of 9 tanks are spotted or accounted for, since the artillery is most likely down here or down here. So there's 2 tanks I don't have a reasonable suggestion to where are. So what I'm thinking is that they are probably camping right around here, also considering where our friends are, meaning they are probably not here, and they are probably not here. So they most definitely are around their base, which is also a very usual position for for people to sit and camp, even though it's terrible. So I want to swing this match completely so that we do not have a single chance of losing, even though we probably didn't to begin with. And that is by going for their artillery. This is something you can do a lot of the time in your light tanks, and it's something I've been enjoying quite heavily, where you see a break. I know probably where all of the enemy tanks are, so what I can do is that I can rush for their artillery and pull the game completely into our favor, even more so than it was already. So let's see how this plays out. Now we've lost 2 tanks over there, and what you see me doing right here is that I'm calling for help and signaling to my artillery that I'm going to be spotting right over here. So we have this Crusader who has noticed me. Oh, and that could have gone very, very wrong. But what you often find is that since he just fired, so he does not stand a chance right now. What you often find is... What was I even saying? What you often find is that you can avoid a lot of artillery shells by moving in a lateral movement in regards to them. So, as you saw there, only 2 of the artillery was left, and so the last artillery is probably right over here somewhere. We have a T-50. Now, the important part when you're moving like this... Oh, there's the Hammer. The important part when you're moving right out here in the open is that you never really want to stay still. Staying still is probably a death sentence. However, there are exceptions, such as this. This guy is AFK, right? Which we can all see. And I'm in this little dip right here. The more you get to know a map, the more you know where these kind of dips are and where you can hide your tank. Now this T-37 is inexperienced. How can I tell this? Because he's not leading his shots in any way, and he's standing mostly still, so I could simply move around him. And this game is practically over. We just need to finish off the SU-100s. Whoop. And again, he shot a bit early there, but what I would have done, even if he didn't, was to try and get as much lateral movement into my... oh, did you see that? See the tracer? The tracer right over here? That's a nice little touch. Oh well, I wanted to get as much lateral movement in regards to him, in regards to me and him, right? Yeah, I think you get what I mean, even though I'm mumbling a bit here. Let's move on to the post-game stats now. And here we are. So as you can see, I got myself a mastery badge and a scout's medal. I also earned 38,250 credits, gross of course, 3,486 experience earned at a 2x victory, and as we can see, I earned by far the most experience, but nowhere near the most damage. This is something you should probably always expect, and to be honest, who can really blame, or who can really think that they would do the most damage in a light tank? This does of course happen, but I find that it's very situational, and in most cases what you're going to find is that you get, as a light tank, the way I play a light tank, which is a very fast medium rather, really, in a way, is that I get a good mix of damage and spotting, which we can see here, since I spotted 12 out of the enemy 15 tanks, and I also got 1,356 spotting damage cost with my assistance, but since I didn't track anybody, this is all spotting. I also earned 32,184 credits net, and as you can see from that, it really doesn't cost a lot to run an MT-25, and it can actually earn you quite a bit of credits. Even without premium, this would still have been 19,434. And I find that the MT-25 is really a magnificent little tank, much like the T-50-2, which used to also simply wreck faces. It is so fun. It is so enjoyable to simply scoot around the battlefield and just eat up damage, spot enemy tanks, know where, have the ability to go where you want to go when you need to go there, and all of that is just awesome. But, as I said, let's see, you need to break your habits. A lot of the time, what I find, at least in myself, is that I get back into these not bad habits, but lazy habits where I go to the same areas over and over again. This is fine to a certain extent, however it's also rather dangerous, because you might find yourself in situations where you're simply going to not be, where the enemy is going to be in a place where you're not familiar. So what you should be doing is to try and explore the maps as much as possible. You need to get comfortable with playing the map in a lot of different scenarios, right? You want to be able to play as effectively in the city on this map as you are on the western flank or in the upper hill city. But of course, the different tanks are capable of different things, and a MT-25 is not something you want to take into the Eastern City, which is basically just a kill zone, since I would be killed by a couple of shots from really rather anything, and that would not be nice for anybody. Also, the thing you saw with me, the logic I applied to knowing when I could make the break for their artillery. This is something that didn't really impact the gameplay so much in this instance. However, it's very important to realize that this is the kind of thought process you need to go through. You need to see where the enemies are and kind of make a fast calculation of where you think the whatever tanks are not spotted are, which in this case is probably around their base, since that was really the only place they could be without being spotted and without adding anything to the match. And a lot of the time people are sitting in stupid locations, but the more you play the game, the more you play the maps, the more you get familiar with these places, and the more you know where to expect them. And this also ties in, of course, with breaking your habits. You just need to play the game a lot. I've only gotten, 5,500 matches played so far? That's really not that much compared to people like Quickie Baby with, I don't know what he's up to by now, 20,000, something like that. That's crazy. It's crazy shit. So of course, it's limited how much you can really learn in so many battles, but still, it's always good to keep this in mind, right? And finally, also tying into, I think you're sensing a theme here, right? Also tying into the whole knowing the map as best as possible, knowing where you're safe to stop. Now, I was sitting there shooting at that AFK T50, and that was out in the open. However, I knew where the enemies were, and I knew where I was, and I knew the map enough to know that they were not really in a position where they could engage me. So, by keeping tabs on that T-37, who later turned out to be a bit inexperienced, at least it seemed like that, or maybe his turret was jammed, or broken, who knows, something like that. That's always a possibility. Never discount that. However, in the end, I knew that I could sit there with relative safety. Of course, always count on people being silly or being in dangerous positions, but if you're feeling rather safe, just take the damage, right? That's extra experience for you. And in the end, that earned me a mastery badge here and a scout medal, although the scout medal was already secured by that point. Also, now that I think about it, 1162 experience is actually not that much for a mastery badge. So I don't know if there's not a lot of people who's playing this MT-25. Maybe that's why it's so low. But either way, it's don't get me wrong, it's nice. I just find it a bit curious. Oh well, I guess I'll have to look up some stats on it. Always a good idea to, when in doubt, look up stats. Stats don't lie. They can be misinterpreted, but they don't lie in what they say by themselves. So I could go in and I can see how many matches are being played in the MT-25 compared to, for example, I don't know, the Hellcat or something. That's probably a ludicrous comparison, but still. I like looking at stats, and I hope you do as well. And with that, I think we should call this an end to this, because it's gotten rather long by now, and I've just sitting here rambling. So, I hope you enjoyed this little mastery badge in the MT-25, which is an absolutely adorable little tank. I got to say, just look at this. Look at how cute it is. So small and fat. That's really one of the big differences between this and the T50-2. The T50-2 was very sleek, and this is very fat, but cute. Cute nonetheless, and very fun. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you back some other day for more World of Tanks. Please remember to vote, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more in the future. It really, really does help a lot. And thank you all for all of you who has subscribed. It's been really awesome, this growth that's happened lately. And I hope I'll see you back some other time, as I've said before now. Well, anyways, have a nice evening.